Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So, continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So, text 24 onwards. So, 23rd verse was, before giving up this body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So that is the characteristic of a yogi, of a devotee actually. One should come to this level. And if one comes to that level, then what happens? Text 24. Yo anta sukho antaramas tatha antar jyotirev yaha sayogi brahma nirvanam brahmbhuto adhigacchati. One whose happiness is within, who's active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So one whose happiness is within means he's not looking for happiness outside in the sense objects or in the material world. He's only looking for happiness within. Within means the happiness of the soul. So, unless one is able to relish happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? So, external engagements are all meant for deriving superficial happiness, which is not real happiness, it's just superficial. Just like in text 22, he said, no, Krishna said that uh, this happiness derived from sense pleasure, it's a source of misery actually. ये ही संस्पर्शजात भोगा दुख्यो ने एवते आदि अंतवंता कौनते नतेषु रमते बुधा. So it has the happiness that we derive from these senses. It has a beginning and it has an end. But ultimately it's a source of misery. So real happiness one is looking for is actually the spiritual happiness. Happiness within, happiness inside. What does it mean, happiness inside, anyway? I mean, so outside he's not going to be happy, a yogi is not going to be happy. No. What it means, um, so now there are different kinds of yogis, Jnana yogi, Dhyana yogi, Bhakti yogi. So Jnana yogi, what they do, they have lots of knowledge. So they they look at something, but they rejoice within because they understand how this thing is connected with Krishna or the Supreme Lord. They don't know about Krishna, but they just know about absolute Brahman or how this thing is separate from Brahman, and so I should not be uh, involved in this. Okay, and then the Hatha yogis are sitting down, they're doing tapasya and they're meditating on Paramatma within, or they're meditating on the light. So they are not also externally engaged. But Bhakti yogis, they go a step higher. They look at everything and how everything is in relationship with the Supreme. Everything is there. Everything is. It's the Gyan yogis generally they go into Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, because after studying the scriptures, they basically come to this understanding that only Brahma is Satya, everything else is Mithya, everything else is false. But the bhakti yogis, their philosophy, or their understanding is everything is not false because everything has come from Krishna, so it cannot be false. Only thing is, everything is temporary, yes, but everything has a relationship with the Lord. Everything has come from the Lord, and everything has a relationship with the Lord, and everything can be used in the service of the Lord because ultimately everything has come from Krishna. So, what is mithya? Mithya, the illusion part is when we try to use that thing in our service for our enjoyment, for our control, then that thing is false, or the idea of using that thing in our service is false. But if we use that thing, same thing, just like we are using a laptop here, or everybody's using their smartphones here. So if you look at it, it is made up of material energy only. But since these things are being used in the service of Krishna, so the same matter is transformed into spirit actually, because it's all spiritual. It's being used in the service of Krishna. So from Bhakti Yogi point of view, there is no such thing as mithya. Mithya is my desire to enjoy separately, enjoy these things separately from Krishna. But if the same thing is engaged in the service of Krishna, then this is not mithya. This is the real thing. Because it's all ultimately Krishna's energy being used in the service of Krishna. So a devotee, he looks at everything. Everything has a relationship with Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. Everything can be used in the service of Krishna. And Krishna and Krishna's energies are so wonderful. How the whole thing is orchestrated, or the whole thing is designed by Krishna. This is amazing. So a devotee, he looks at it this way. So ultimately, he is rejoicing from within that how this thing is related to Krishna, or is related to Krishna, or how this thing can be used in the service of Krishna. So he's also happy within, he's also rejoicing within. And that is a real position, and this is what that Krishna is saying. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So in the purport Prabhupada is writing, he can therefore sit silently at any place and enjoy the activities of life from within. Such a liberated person no longer desires external material happiness. This state is called Brahmbhuta. In chapter 1854, 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 54th verse, Krishna says, Brahmbhuta prasanatma na shochati na kankshati. Means one who has attained that stage of Brahmbhuta means he understands everything is Brahman actually. Everything comes from Brahman. He does not desire anything, and he does not lament if he lost anything, because he understands everything is in relationship with Krishna. And that time he attains which one is assured of going back to Godhead, back home. So that state is what we have to attain. And Krishna in the verse he says, ultimately he attains the Supreme. Means it will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. Because so far, millions and millions of lifetimes, we have been thinking, I am this body, and my whole sole purpose of life is to give pleasure to this body. And from there, to change the gears, all of a sudden, the car was going full speed, full throttle in the front direction, and then we have to stop and put the reverse gear. No, 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 I was going in the wrong direction. We have to go in the back direction, back home, back to Godhead. So it will take time first for the car to come to a stop, and then to pick up the speed on the way back. It will take time. So ultimately, he attains the Supreme. So it's the ultimate goal, but we have to work on it. Text 25. Labante Brahm Nirvanam Rishya Kshina Kalmasha Chinna Dvaidha Yatatmana Sarvabhut Hite Rataha. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Only so those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts. So dualities are basically a heat and cold, victory and defeat. So that those dualities are of the material world. In the absolute plane, there is no duality. It doesn't mean there is no heat or cold there. But heat does not bother and cold does not bother. One does not become happy by getting one, and one but does not get sad by getting the other thing. Because in the absolute plane or in the spiritual world, everybody understands everything is used in the service of Krishna. Everything is being produced for the service of Krishna. Whose minds are engaged within. So again, the thing is within. Within, now we have to understand it is within for the benefit of the soul, but actually in the service of the Supreme. That is the real benefit of soul. Who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, not just for the welfare of human beings, not just the welfare of Hindus, not just for the welfare of North Indians or South Indians, all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So, achieving liberation in the Supreme, that moksha, nirvanam, it's not that easy, according to this chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So, these are the qualities one has to develop. Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in knowledge that Krishna is a fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as a supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society, that is the highest welfare work. Why? What about the other welfare work or the social work or the charity that we do? The other charity that we do, it will only help in keeping or in maintaining the body of a person. And at the most, he can be satisfied mentally. That's about it. But if somebody works on giving this Krishna consciousness to somebody else, so so just like Prabhupada said in the previous lines, the suffering of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as a supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor, supreme friend. So the real suffering of the soul is when the soul is away from Krishna, separated from Krishna. So no matter how much material benefits we give to that soul, of course, at the same time, the soul needs some material elements also, material possessions, material things to live properly. Just like there's a saying, na, bhuke pet na bhajan hoy gopala. Means if you are hungry, you cannot even do bhajan properly. Of course, there are so many Babajis in Vrindavan, so many devotees. Their state is totally different. Just like we once discussed about Raghunath Das Goswami. So he was a sage or devotee of such a caliber. He would every other day he would only eat some little buttermilk that would come in a leaf cup. That's it. And every day he would chant 2 lakh names and pay obeisances to the deities, 2,000 times to the deities, 2,000 times to the devotees every day. And he would chant the name, he would write books, he would meet people. But this is all he would eat. Why? Because he was happy within, his soul was satisfied. And when the soul is satisfied, the body will automatically get satisfied. Body will get nourished also. Just like today is the disappearance day of Sanatan Goswami, it's being the Guru Purnima. Well, not in India, at least here still is. So even Sanatan Goswami, he was a chief minister under Nawab Hussain Shah. But later on, when him and his brother Rupa Goswami, they met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they had developed the desire to leave everything. Rupa Goswami was able to leave, get the leave from the service of Nawab Hussain Shah. But Sanatan Goswami wasn't that lucky. Rupa Goswami went to Banaras or Allahabad to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Sanatan Goswami was still stuck. And Nawab Hussain Shah had put him in a prison house. But still, when he was in the prison house, he wasn't disturbed. He was still trying to figure out how to get out of here. And through the help of Rupa Goswami, had sent some gold coins, and Sanatan Goswami somehow bribed the jailer to get out of the jail. And when he got out of the jail, he just left towards Banaras, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, and he was going to meet him. So here, at one day, he was a chief minister under Nawab Hussain Shah. He was like chief minister of the whole kingdom. And the next day, he was a prisoner, and following day he was running away from the prison, running away from the kingdom of Nawab Hussain Shah. He was going by foot on the road, but still he was very happy. And somehow he reached Banaras, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying, and he reached that place of Tapan Mishra. Tapan Mishra Chandrasekhar, I'm forgetting who it was Mahaprabhu was staying with at that time. So Mahaprabhu sent the host outside. He said, "There's some big Vaishnav saint has come. Please go and check who is it." So I think it's a Chandrasekhar Acharya. He came outside and he just saw one beggar sitting next to his building. But he went inside. He said, "Mahaprabhu, there is no Vaishnav saint outside." The Mahaprabhu asked him, "Is there somebody outside?" Then Chandrasekhar said, "Yes, there's a beggar outside." Mahaprabhu said, "Bring him in. He's a big Vaishnav saint." So when Sanatan Goswami was asked to come inside, and Sanatan Goswami, when he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he paid obeisances. Mahaprabhu embraced him. And Chandrasekhar Acharya was surprised. Who is this big Vaishnav saint? And Mahaprabhu is treating him so fondly. And then Mahaprabhu explained to him, he is Sanatan Goswami. And Sanatan Goswami is considered the guru of Rupa Goswami, and we all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are considered as Rupa Nugas, the followers of Rupa Goswami. And his guru was Sanatan Goswami. And Rupa Goswami, because always considered Sanatan Goswami his elder brother as his guru. Of course, their guru was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he always respected Sanatan Goswami as his guru. So this is the position of Sanatan Goswami. But he was always happy within. And he was so happy that he would sometimes chastise Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. Of all the 6 Goswamis, he was a leading 6 Goswami, and he would sometimes chastise these 2 and others also. Somehow today Sanatan Goswami Disappearance Day, and all the stories are coming out of my mouth. I don't know why. I never prepared that. So once uh, Rupa Goswami, because they both were, earlier they were ministers under Nawab Hussain Shah, but then when they left and they went to Vrindavan, they were living like mendicants, like beggars. And they would not even sleep under the same tree twice because they thought we would get attached to the tree. So every night they would sleep under a different tree. So one day Rupa Goswami had a desire. He thought Sanatan Goswami's appearance day is approaching. His birthday is coming up, and Rupa Goswami wanted to make sweet rice. Somehow he had a desire to make kheer for Sanatan Goswami. Now this desire was there, but they had no kitchen, there were no utensils, there were no supplies to make kheer. So he was thinking, why did I desire that? And he said, anyway, he was doing his bhajan, and all of a sudden, a little, very little, beautiful girl came, and she told Rupa Goswami, "Oh, Baba, 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 we had a wedding in our village, and there are some leftover items for kheer. So here is milk, here is rice, and here is some sugar. If you want, you can make kheer." Rup Goswami was astonished. How come he thought he just had a desire, and all of a sudden this girl came, and he just didn't think too much about it. He said, okay, Krishna has arranged, so let me make kheer. So he prepared, and when Sanatan Goswami came by, and Rup Goswami offered him that kheer, Sanatan Goswami said, this, and when he tasted that kheer, he said, this kheer is heavenly, not even heavenly, it's transcendental. Where did you get the kheer from? Where did you get the ingredients from? So Rup Goswami told Sanatan Goswami that, no, I was thinking of making kheer for you, but I didn't have anything. So this beautiful girl came by. She said in their village they had a wedding and these things were left over. So she gave me all the ingredients. I made the kheer for you. Now, Sanatan Goswami, as I also mentioned in my post, that he is considered as a father figure by all the Brajvasis because he would go to different villages and he would talk to everybody about their welfare and how's their household doing, how are the cattle doing, how's the crop, who's getting married, who's not getting married, whatever. He knew about every Brajvasi's whole history, of the whole, I mean, family, whatever is happening in the family, and he would also counsel them if there was any problems or something like that. So Sanatan Goswami, when he heard Rupa Goswami, this girl came and she said there was a wedding in the village. Sanatan Goswami, there was no wedding in that village today. What village? What wedding? There was no wedding because Sanatan Goswami knew everything. So then he asked Rupa Goswami, what did that girl look like? So when Rupa Goswami was explaining, Sanatan Goswami, although he was still eating kheer and he was really relishing it and saying, oh, it was very tasty, very tasty. But he started chastising Rupa Goswami. What did you do? You took service from Srimati Radharani? That was Radharani who had come herself. How could you take service from Radharani? We are here to serve Radharani, not take service from her. Although at the same time he was enjoying the kheer. So this is the level of Sanatan Goswami. That was real rejoicing within. He wasn't even ready to take service from Radharani. In fact, that place where this kheer pastime happened, that is at Ter Kadam, which is near Nandagaon. I mean, really at Nandagaon, like on one side of the street is the Nand Baba's temple, and the other side of the street is Ter Kadam. And till today, the pujaris there, they make beautiful, very tasty kheer every day, and they offer to the deities, and then they give it to all the visitors whoever come there. So next time you all go, if I come, fine. Otherwise, Radha Prabhu is very much capable of taking everybody. So you all should go visit that place and taste that sweet kheer. So coming back to Sanatan Goswami, so this was his level. Oh, so how much he was rejoicing within, although he had given up everything and no material possessions he had, and still he was happy. But at the same time, not ready to take service from Radha or Krishna, ready to do every service, but not to take service from them. Similarly, with Raghunath Das Goswami, when he came from Jagannath Puri, he came to Vrindavan, and then he started staying at near Radhakund, and he would do his bhajan. And so once Raghunath Das Goswami was doing his bhajan in the open, it was hot, it was very hot. And Sanatan Goswami happened to pass by that place, that Radhakund. So Sanatan Goswami saw Raghunath Das Goswami was doing his bhajan, and he was so absorbed in bhajan, in his chanting and kirtan, and he didn't realize it was hot. And then he saw Shrimati Radharani was standing there with her pallu over the head of Rupa Goswami to keep him protected from the hot sun. And while doing that, Shrimati Radharani herself was perspiring. And Sanatan Goswami saw all this. And he yelled at Raghunath, Raghunath, what are you doing? And Radharani, when she saw Sanatan Goswami saying like that, she disappeared. So when Sanatan Goswami called Raghunath like that, Raghunath opened his eyes. He said, what I'm doing? I'm doing my bhajan. What happened? What's wrong? Then Sanatana Goswami explained to him that Radharani was standing here holding her anchal, holding her chunni on your head to protect you from sun rays. Are you so elevated that you can take service from Srimati Radharani like this? Why can't you do your bhajan sitting under a tree? So Radharani doesn't have to come down like this. So Raghunath Das Goswami understood his mistake. He said, okay, yes, it was my mistake. From now on, I'll do my bhajan sitting under a tree. So few days passed. Again, Raghunath Das Goswami was doing his bhajan under a tree. Sanatana Goswami happened to pass again from that place. And now what he saw? He saw a tiger and a tigress. They had come to drink water from Radhakund. And Raghunath Das Goswami was doing his bhajan sitting under a tree. But then Sanatan Goswami saw there was Krishna standing behind another tree with a bow and arrow in his hand. Why? Because Krishna wanted to protect Raghunath Das Goswami. If this tiger and tigress, they try to attack Raghunath Das Goswami. Sanatan Goswami happened to see all this again. And then again he yelled at Raghunath, Raghunath, what are you doing? And when he said like that, Krishna disappeared. And then Sanatan Goswami went to Raghunath Das. What are you doing? He said, now what did I do? I am just doing my bhajan sitting under a tree, as I told you. Sanatan Goswami told him, see, you do bhajan like this, then Krishna was standing there to protect you. Why can't you make a hut and do your bhajan inside the hut? So Krishna doesn't have to come and protect you. So then that's what Raghunath Das Goswami did, and that hut, that place is still there where we go, and Raghunath Das Goswami's Bhajan Kutir is there. So we can visit at the banks of Radhakund. But again, coming back to Sanatan Goswami, so that was his level. That was his level of bhajan, his service, his realizations. So he was just like all the rest of the Goswamis. Everything was within. They were not looking for anything, any happiness outside. So that is a state that we need to attain. At least we need to work for, even if we cannot attain that final perfection, we need to work on that. And actual happiness is within. There's nothing outside. Outside is like Krishna said, no, it's uh, Adi Antavanta Kontya Dukhyone Evte. Means um, it's a source of misery because it has a beginning and it has an end. So, but the happiness within, it has no end and it has no beginning. And the happiness keeps on increasing. It has no limit either. So that is the happiness we have to work for, we have to strive for. Text 26. Kam krodha vimukta nam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahm nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self realized, self disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. So, again, free from anger, free from all material desires, who are self realized, self disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection. So they are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Means that even that is not the state of liberation. It will come later on. Prabhupada quotes this verse from Bhagavatam. Just try to worship in devotional service Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great sages are not able to control the forces of the senses as effectively as those who are engaged in transcendental bliss by serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So the real way of controlling the senses is by engaging the senses in serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So, or in serving the Supreme Lord or serving the devotees of the Lord. In the conditioned soul, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep rooted that it's very difficult, even for the great sages, to control such desires, despite great endeavors. So, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep rooted in us. Means, as soon as we get an opportunity, we want to enjoy that. A devotee of the Lord, constantly engaged in devotional service and Krishna consciousness, perfect in self realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme. Why? Because he is engaged in the service of the Supreme. Owing to his complete knowledge and self realization, he always remains in trance. To cite an analogous example of this, the Prabhupada cites this example. By vision, by meditation, and by touch only do the fish, the tortoise, and the birds maintain their offsprings. Similarly, do I also, O Padmaja. So, Padmaja is Brahmaji, one who was born on the lotus flower. So, Krishna tells him a fish maintains her offspring by just looking at it. The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditation. How the eggs of the tortoise are laid on land, and the tortoise meditates on the eggs while in the water. I don't know if any scientist can figure that out, but since it's in the scripture, it must be true. So turtles, they live underwater, but they lay the eggs on the land, and they just think about it, and they maintain those eggs. So see, even the turtles, they can do the meditation better than us. They can meditate on their eggs completely. There's no problem. Even when they're living underwater, they're separate or away from the eggs, and they could be going through all sorts of hassles, but this mother turtle, she can think of her babies in the form of eggs, and she can protect them. She can maintain them. And birds, obviously, birds do it by touch, because birds lay the eggs in the nest, and by touching, by covering on them, she maintains. But that is still better than this fishes maintaining the eggs, offsprings by touch, by vision, just by looking at them. But Krishna, he says, I take care of my devotees in all three ways possible: by vision, by meditating on them, or by touching them. Similarly, the devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the Lord's abode, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly, by engagement in Krishna consciousness. He does not feel the pangs of material miseries. This state of life is called Brahma Nirvana, or the absence of material miseries due to being constantly immersed in the Supreme. So that is the state one has to attain. Constantly being immersed in the Supreme. Text 27-28. Sparshan kritva bahirbayansh chakshush chaivantare bhruvo pranapano samo kritva nasabhyantar charino yatendriya manobuddhir muni moksha parayana vigatecha bhaya krodho yas sada mukta eva saha. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So this is a prelude to the sixth chapter, which Krishna is going to speak on this dhyana yoga. So he gave a little hint of here, little hint of that whole chapter here. So how does a yogi work? Because Krishna had explained everything in Bhagavad Gita. So dhyana yoga also he had to explain. Being engaged in Krishna consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity, and then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. When one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. This particular position is called liberation in the Supreme. So liberation in the Supreme. When one understands the Lord by means of devotional service. So presence of Lord in the sphere of one's activity. So after explaining the above principles of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instruction to Arjuna as to how one can come to that position by the practice of mysticism or yoga known as Ashtanga Yoga, which is divisible into an eightfold procedure called Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi. So that is the real system of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Eight divisions are there. Normally, people only go up to Yam, Niyam, and Asan. Even Pranayam is difficult. Whatever pranayam you do is okay in the while doing yoga asanas, but the real pranayam is later on, comes later. So even doing asana, what Ramdev Baba teaches, which is good for the body to keep the body healthy, no doubt. But then before that, there's some yam, and then there are niyam. Yam means the things we don't do. Niyam means things we have to do. So without yam and niyam, without the practice of yam and niyam, there is no uh, practice of asana. One cannot do asanas properly if it doesn't follow yam and niyam. The things one has to do and things one should not do. But since those yam and niyam are very difficult to follow, And so that's why these yoga, so-called yoga gurus, they don't dwell on yam and niyam. They just say, just do asana, just do this way, pranayam this way, or this, bend your body like this. And just, like Prabhupada used to call it gymnastics, do your gymnastics like that. And they think they can attain the supreme. But no. After asana is pranayam, then pratyahar, then dharan, then dhyan, then comes samadhi. Then that is the stage. One can, if still he does, if he doesn't um, get distracted by ashtasiddhis, then one can attain the supreme. One can attain the Vaikuntha planets. But there are so many other things that have the first procedure, eightfold procedure, and then the ashtasiddhis one can get by following this, by doing this eightfold procedure. And one can get distracted. So this yoga process helps one become free from all kinds of fear and anger, and thus feel the presence of the super soul in the transcendental situation. So one can, I mean, it's a bona fide process, and one can make progress, but one has to follow it properly. And then in the sixth chapter, we'll see how difficult it is. In other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. So, last verse for this chapter today. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvalok maheshwaram suhridam sarva bhutanam gyata mam shantim richati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So in the previous verse, Krishna says one becomes free from anger and desire. But here, Krishna gives another method of attaining peace, the peace formula. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. So, yogi has to understand the austerities that he is performing. He is not the beneficiary, it is Krishna. Why? Because if I think I'm the beneficiary of my austerities, then I'll get entangled and I have to take next birth again. And austerities also I cannot perform without the mercy of Krishna. If Krishna doesn't give me the power to even sit down, to breathe properly, how can I perform any austerity? No way. So one has to understand it's all by the mercy of Krishna and it's all for the pleasure of Krishna. And I'm the supreme lord of all planets and demigods. So Krishna is the controller, proprietor, enjoyer of every single thing. And still he is a Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, all living entities. He doesn't say I'm the benefactor and well-wisher of only Hindus, so-called Hindus, because the Hindu word does not come in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is talking about all living entities. Insects, birds, reptiles, animals, even among human beings, everybody, whether they're in Varnashram system or not in Varnashram, he is the benefactor and well-wisher of all. He does not make discrimination, we do. And when somebody comes to that level, he is the one who attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So this Prabhupada said this is the peace formula. They do not know the formula for peace. Conditioned souls within the clutches of illusory energy are all anxious to attain peace, but they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of Bhagavad Gita. So we have peace rallies, we have peace marches, we do fasting for peace, we do unshan for peace, peace in the society, and this or that. But people don't understand how to attain peace or how to bring about peace in the society. If everybody becomes a devotee of Krishna, starts serving Krishna, there will not be any problem. Because then one understands he is a proprietor, he is a controller, he is an enjoyer, and still he is my best friend. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Man should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord because he is a proprietor of all planets and the demigods thereon. No one is greater than he is. He is greater than the greatest of the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. In the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is described as Tam Ishvaranam Param Maheshwaram. Under the spell of illusion, living entities are trying to be lords of all this survey, but actually they're dominated by the material energy of the Lord. The Lord is a master of material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it's not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. This is a sense of Krishna consciousness. So that's the consciousness we have to attain. That's the consciousness we have to develop, we have to cultivate, we have to work upon. Krishna is the supreme predominator, and all living entities, including the great demigods, are his subordinates. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it's not possible. So, here the chapter ends. So, we'll start chapter 6 tomorrow. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There is a very beautiful line you have mentioned in today's session. That is, Lord talked not about Hindus only. His mercy is not on only Hindus. It's on all of us, all the mankind's.
Yeah. Well, this is what Krishna says, na? Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. He doesn't say only Suridam, only Hindu Nam, or whatever. He is for everybody. It just we make the distinctions. Of course, we as a followers, we have to be practical. We have to be careful. Like Madhyamadikari, he makes distinctions when he is preaching, when he is dealing with people. But at the same time, we have to understand they're all coming from Krishna only. Everybody comes from Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other question or comment? Subhu Prabhu, please enlighten us.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, just that observation that we had last week also. The chapter 12 also,
Yeah.
in the verse 3 and 4, he mentions Yetvaksharam Anirdesham Avyaktam Parupasate and Samniyam Indriya Gramam Sarvatra Samabuddhaya. This 27 and 28, Sparshan Kritva Bahir Bhagyan and Yatendriya Manobuddhaya, they almost take similar lines. One talking about the self and the other talking about the Lord.
Without self-control, we cannot make progress. It's simple as that. And the control has to come from within.
Yes.
But anyway, it's a wonderful book that we got, and every time we read, it's new realizations come in.
Yes. Even though the meanings appear similar, but the contexts are so different.
Contexts are different, yes.
So, I mean, it might look like repetition, but of course, Krishna doesn't repeat, just for sake of repetition, obviously.
But he does repeat that Manmana Bhav shloka. He
Right.
said that in 9th and then in 18th chapter.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Just wait a second. Archana Mataji had her mic on.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी
Yes, Mata. Hare Krishna.
कर्म ही पूजा है. What does this mean?
अरे बाप रे.
Sorry. कुछ ज़्यादा. Normally जो चुटपन से, like बचपन से we are just reading and all, and everywhere we see कर्म ही पूजा है, कर्म ही. I always have a question, like what kind of कर्म is like they talk about?
No, they just misunderstand Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
And they take they're shooting the guns by keeping on the shoulder of Bhagavad Gita. It's not true. Karam puja hai if the karam is done for Krishna. But if it is there, if I'm doing the karam for myself, to make money, for my enjoyment, for my pleasure, how is it puja? I'm going to get next birth. And where I'm going to suffer again. How is it puja? It might lead to paid puja, that is for sure, but that's about it.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean the devotees don't do work. Just look at, after listening to whole Bhagavad Gita, Arjun fought the war. He didn't run away from the war. He fought and he killed so many people. But we have to understand karma, yes, it is we have to do, but under what consciousness, for whose pleasure, with what mentality, with what, how we have to do that karma. That's what we have to understand. Nobody says run away from duties, but how to do the duties properly. As an offering to Krishna. Yes, do the duties. Here Krishna says, I am the benefactor of all the sacrifice and all the austerities. In a day-to-day life, or for any regular person, who's the benefactor of all the austerities and all the work that he's doing? He himself. So karma is not puja if it is done for myself. It is puja if it's done for Krishna. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mata. Hare Krishna. So who had the question? I don't see the name.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Hare
it's
Krishna.
not related to what you taught today. It's related to yesterday's the lunar eclipse. In fact, while I started from office a little early yesterday, मैं घर आ रहा था. One thing I noticed was रास्ते में जितने temples थे सारे मतलब
सारे क्या?
चंद्रग्रहण टेम्पल सारे बंद हो गए थे. रास्ते में जितने कई सारे temples I saw, so all of them were closed.
Yeah.
तो फिर मैं ऐसे पूछा था यहाँ पे आते समय घर के बाहर एक टेम्पल है, जैसे आज चंद्र ग्रहण तो इसलिए बंद हो गया. So what's the reason they close the temples? Because ISKCON is never closed. कल तो मैसेज भी आया था हमारे यहाँ सारे भोग लेंगे सब कुछ होगा because रात के 12 बजे के बाद ही है वो. So उसका रीजन क्या होता है प्रभु जी सारे बंद कर देते हैं? Is it अंधविश्वास है या कुछ वो ये होता है?
नहीं अंधविश्वास नहीं है. Actually what's called Sutak. Before the eclipse, some period is Sutak, means actually the harmful rays come out, and anything that is cooked or kept open at that time, anything edible, it gets contaminated. So that's why nothing is cooked at that time, and nothing edible or cooked food is kept also. Of course, it is also that if you keep tulsi in that, then it remains uncontaminated. It doesn't harm. The rays cannot harm the place where tulsi is kept. So the temples are closed, and people are not asked to cook anything for the Lord or bring anything for the Lord because it gets contaminated by those rays. But then what to do? Like Radhakrishnan Prabhu had posted that little video clip. So better to chant at that time. Actually, at that time, one should not sleep. One should perform some chanting or reading of scriptures, because from Vaishnava point of view, it's very auspicious time because we get a chance to chant the holy names. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared during that time, and actually, earlier days people used to be in the rivers bathing, taking bath at that time, not because of any andavishwas, but because it is very auspicious at that time to take bath in the rivers, to take protection, shelter of the rivers, and shelter of the rivers, but at the same time chanting. So chanting has to go on.
At 12 o'clock in the night and 3 o'clock he was taking bath and chanting.
Not a bad idea.
Radha Prabhuji could not hear that. Just repeat that now.
No, I had gone to Upari Ganga, Murar Nagar Naher, because we had to do Pitra Tarapanam also before the Grahan finishes. So we went at around 10:30, chanted till when the Grahan started, and then took bath and continued chanting, and then did Pitra Tarapan, and then finally took a bath at 4:30, and I came back in the morning in the Ganga Tat. Also because it's also a Chaturmasya, starting of Chaturmasya, where the sannyasi traditionally who don't, as you said about Rupa Goswami and others, Sanatana Goswami, they don't stay at one place as a sannyasi would. They don't stay at the same place for 2 consecutive nights. But this month is given for sannyasis to stay at one place, so that they don't move around, because of the rainy season or other season. You have all insects and all other organisms that are coming out. So they don't want to unintentionally do any harm to them. So that nowadays I think it's 4 paksha rather than 4 months.
Well, now we have cars and airplanes to move around in, so nobody goes by walking.
So I think that is another important thing about this 2 months. I think 4 pakshas.
Yeah.
Sannyasis, they can live in one place and do their chanting and do all their siddhis, all their work that sannyasis do.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
So should we stop here, or any other question or comment?
Thank you very much.
So I guess we can stop here. Thank you, Prabhu. You all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
See you all tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.